All right, everybody, welcome back. Shifting gears and diving into our next engaging topic, navigating MarTech in franchise. So our agenda moving forward is a bit of a twofold. So we're going to start by discussing potential challenges. What are these common pitfalls that franchise businesses often stumble upon when selecting and implementing MarTech solutions? Following that, we'll look into the solutions. How can franchise marketers ensure that their MarTech tools are effectively integrated across their multitude of locations, ensuring a coherent and productive experience? After our discussion, we're actually going to break out into breakout rooms. We're going to give everyone a chance to have a little bit more of an intimate and detailed conversation with our experts. And with that, I will go ahead and quickly introduce our panelists. So obviously, first up, we have Kasey Skala, remarkable 15 years over in marketing, currently heading up citywide facility solutions, definitely a genius behind global marketing strategies for iconic brands from Solo Cup, Virgin Mobile, and Great Clips. Next up, we have Jessica Martin, former owner of the Savvy Hiker. Jessica now spearheads marketing strategies over at Payroll Vault, and her managed marketing program there speaks certainly volumes about her knack for innovation and her dedication to franchisee success. Last but certainly not least, Amy Lofgreen, a multifaceted head of marketing for 3 distinct brands. Amy's prowess extends from operational program management to launching national websites, always with a focus on leveraging technology to enhance marketing efficiency. So without further ado, I'm honored to pass over the baton and mic to our roundtable host, Kasey. Kasey, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle, and thank you for my esteemed panel mates here for joining myself and the opportunity to talk with you guys about MarTech and some of our thoughts on what we're doing at our organizations, and then what you guys can use to find success in your guys' roles. So again, if you guys have any questions throughout, please throw it in the chat function. Danielle, Daria, Serge, Alex, or myself will get those, and we can answer those, and we can make this a dialogue for you guys as well. So again, thanks. My name is Kasey. I lead marketing here at Citywide. We're a B2B franchise business. We clean a lot of toilets throughout the US. I've been here about 2 years, and again, here's my background across a number of different roles. In all of these roles, technology and marketing, I played a vital role in bringing technology into the marketing execution at these organizations, and really having a close partnership with our chief technology officer and our IT teams here. So I'll turn it over to Amy first. Amy, if you want to give a quick little spiel about yourself for the audience.
Yeah, I have been in franchising for a long time now, and I started over on the ops side, and then for a little period of time I was in project management, and really the project management I was doing was assessing across the whole bandwidth of the 2 brands where our weaknesses were, and if there was technology that we could fill in there. And as I was doing that, there was a lot of things that were touching into marketing. They ended up having me head up the marketing department, and that is how I moved into marketing. So I firsthand been able to really see where from the C level, they really thought that the whole team was not doing what they needed to do and weren't going to be able to execute properly, to getting the right technology in place, and all of a sudden, same people, all of a sudden they were doing a great job. So I feel really passionate about this because I've seen what a big difference it makes when you get the right technology in place.
Wonderful, thank you. Jessica, we'll turn it over to Jessica Martin here briefly.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the summit so far. I have a broad background in marketing and communications. I am still relatively new to franchising. I started with Payroll Vault about 7 years ago, and I had started with them, and they didn't really plan for me. So it was kind of a unique experience. But since I started out with as a director of marketing and moved into the CMO role within the past year, and the payroll space has been such a very unique place to market in because some of our larger competitors. So we have been focusing over the past several years, getting systems and processes in alignment. And over the past 2 years, really been focusing on the technology to add into that, kind of to echo what Amy said, just kind of fill in those gaps, create efficiencies. And it's been a fun process as well as kind of a daunting and fearful process as well.
7 years. You're not a rookie if you've been in it for 7 years, Jessica. You're a veteran.
I don't know. There are so many people that have so much knowledge, thorough knowledge of franchising, and it's so exciting when I talk to them. And I'm getting there. I am focusing on it.
Yeah.
I just earned my CFE in this past year, so it's definitely a whole new world. It's so exciting, and I'm definitely humbled by the amount of experience that a lot of other people have in the franchising industry, but it's inspirational as well.
You're stuck in the franchise space. Danielle, if you want to move to the first slide here. So, when it comes with, integrating marketing and technology and bringing solutions in, I think we all at some point in our career have said, hey, if I just had this technology or this platform, if I was just able to do this, it would make my job a lot easier to help the organization grow, help show the value, put an ROI to the work that we're doing in the marketing space. I get pings every day from different technology vendors of how they can, help my business and help me grow and show ROI. That, it's kind of an often a misnomer of, the assumption that, a platform will make it easier, but there's a lot more that goes into integrating and implementing a MarTech solution than just, signing over a check and having a vendor that you can play around with. So, Amy, we'll kick it off with you. What are some challenges, I guess I like to call them areas of opportunity when it comes with looking into bringing in different technology vendors and technology solutions to your marketing team and your marketing program?
Some of the biggest stumbles that I have experienced have happened from a couple different reasons. And the first is somebody up at the C level did all of the looking, deciding what there should be. So that you expose that there's a weakness, and then the people who are actually going to be using it didn't get any voice in the choosing. That puts everybody at a real big disadvantage because they're ready to sign and execute, but they don't know anything about it yet. And so any of the things that are going to be the pinch points at that C level, they're not necessarily going to know what that is. And I've seen this mistake made from the C level and also from the technology director being the one to make the decision without bringing in the stakeholders. So really making sure that you identify, you think you know what it is that the team is needing, reach out to all of your team and say, these are things I'm thinking we need. What do you think? And really get what are the most important things for your team. And then as you're looking at all of the different options that you have, I like to really make sure that I'm not complicating. You can't choose the best of everything and then have 10 different marketing technology solutions, because you're just always going in and out and you don't have the cohesiveness, and no one started in the right spot. And so you have to really know what is the most important for the team. So you buy the technology that is really strong in those areas. And then the next problem that I have found is some technology solutions are really comfortable in moving forward and changing, and some aren't. And you can find that out early on in your conversations with them by telling them the things that are missing. And some companies will want you to talk to their engineers right off the bat. Promo Republic was one of those for me. I've never had anybody do it at the level that Promo Republic did way back when, 2018 or 2019. I hadn't signed yet, and they had me talk with their engineers for about 2 hours. I really knew that they would grow in the areas that I needed because of that. And other companies that had a lot of good things, they didn't even want to hear or put it onto the list. And I have signed with both types before, and I found that the one that wasn't interested, they end up falling behind. Technology is always moving so quickly. So choosing a technology team that has the mindset of staying up to date with everything is really, really important, or otherwise you're going to have to switch, which is always miserable. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that was some great points. I think, your comments around making sure that the right stakeholders are in that initial, conversation when you're sourcing and procuring potential vendors, I think is critical, because I think, all of us at some point, right, we can only look so far ahead of where we are. And oftentimes we try to identify solutions to solve our current problems, and we fail to look where the business is going to be 3-5 years down the road, which brings in a number of different other issues, right? Are you going to have to pivot in 2 years? Is the technology partner going to be right for you again in 2 years? What's that scalable ability for the partners that you're working with? So, we say, hey, I have a problem today I'm trying to solve. You go out and source a vendor, but then, there's some outside costs and efficiencies that come into play to that. Jessica, on your end, at Payroll Vault and some of your past experience, share your thoughts and tips and tricks on looking at different partners to bring in and how they can bring your organization forward.
So the very first pitfall that I have seen and even been guilty of myself in the past is rushing the process. You cannot rush the process. And I know that sometimes we get over eager and so excited, like we're going to have all these bells and whistles, we're going to have all of these efficiencies, but things don't always go as planned. So taking the time to carefully consider where we've been, what efficiencies we need to move forward, and then what's going to really bring us closer to our goals, whether that's sales, marketing. We need to be very clear and very defined on those. It's just not something you can rush through. And I know we kind of live in that land of instant gratification, but this is one that can be the polar opposite if you rush the process. The second challenge is not really mapping out to where you are and where you need to be. When you don't map it out, it's more difficult to anticipate unforeseen challenges. And that's a difficult process because it's unforeseen, right? We always have those little things that pop up. I'm sure most everyone here has been through some type of software conversion to where it was supposed to run smooth, you have an end goal, and then all of a sudden there is one little wrench that's thrown into your wheel, and being able to pivot to that. It's crucial to plan for consistency or contingencies, especially in the terms of project management. Speaking to referrals can help provide valuable insights into the types of situations that they ran into, things that could arise, how it was managed. And, although those surprises will always be inevitable along the way, this will help prevent scope creep. Just trying to, okay, will this happen? Could this happen? And then lastly, never underestimate the importance of creating a very thorough request for proposal. And once you have that, once you go through that process, it really helps to weed out some of the things that you may have missed, and going through that with your team and taking the time to ask questions, to do due diligence. By reviewing that project plan meticulously, you can also ensure that you're well prepared to move forward and help kind of go back to those unforeseen challenges as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. One of the things that I think is interesting about the franchise space is, when you're adopting new technologies, we often, again, have our blinders on from at the support center, the corporate level. And we don't really look at the diversity amongst our franchisees and where they are in their business. At Citywide, a challenge that I constantly face when bringing in different technologies and trying different things and putting pilots together is really getting a true representation of our franchisee community. On the plus side, we have 98 locations. So on the franchisee level, it's not a lot of large franchise population, but those 98 franchisees range from everyone from somebody who just started their business to somebody who's been around for 20 years and is doing $30 million in revenue, right? And how do you guys approach, bringing in technologies and making sure that it is going to be valuable and resourceful across the entire system, not just a population that may be tech savvy, that may be in a position where, they need the solution today? And how do you bring in some of those newbies and some of those smaller franchisees who, again, may not see the true value of the technology that you're bringing in, to make sure that they're seeing the value and being able to utilize that as well? Start with you, Amy.
Okay. I feel like it's really important to be a teacher as much as in charge of a marketing department, that our job is to help be able to be executed down at that lowest level. And so when I'm looking at technologies, I am always thinking of that lower 20%, maybe the 30%. There's always some who will never adopt anything, and I'm aware of that. But if it's got too many bells and whistles, it's going to be too complicated for them, and they're going to avoid it. I'm a big believer in implementing at the headquarters level before you ever tell franchisees about it. All of the franchising that I have done, there has always been corporate headquarters accounts that I can try things out in first. So I negotiate in at a lower level price. We're going to try it on this many, and then we will make a final decision in X amount of months so that we can really take a look at it. And then I like to have my whole team in it for a considerable period of time. I would never push anything out to the franchisees less than 6 months of my being in it and my team being in it, so that we can figure out the things that aren't working for our brand the way we thought that they were going to be able to work. And it also gives my team a chance to be a subject matter expert in it, so that they can then be training franchisees and training the ops team in it before it gets executed out. So what that would look like is, if I think that I need to have that this year, I'm implementing in January, February, March for myself, and I'm announcing it really at the end of next year, so that if it's not working, they don't have to know about that something didn't work. That's never happened. I've never started with someone and then had to switch from it, but it could happen. And I want to have the freedom to be able to say, you didn't deliver on what it is, and so we're not going to push this to everybody. But if you don't have trainings in place and you haven't done a big boost of the why, and the franchisees, if they know and trust you, that you know what's best for them and that you've built that rapport with them, they get on board, and they get on board really quite quickly. I just don't want to then make a problem for my marketing team that there's a lot of mistakes and things that they haven't figured out themselves yet. So building at that period of time when the headquarters team is in it has made a big difference and makes the implementing really quite beautiful.
Wonderful. Jessica, question for you. When looking at partners, how important do you think, what value do you place on a vendor who maybe specializes, or the bulk of their business is in the franchise space, versus a vendor who may not have as much case studies, use cases at that franchise level? Do you see any value and benefit out either of those?
I can't really speak to it. I know that being in franchising, I feel like someone with franchise experience understands some of the unique challenges that franchising faces. So I do see more of a value. They also understand the culture of franchising. So those are all key points. At the end of the day, it does go back to that alignment of culture within a broad spectrum. Just what are their core values? What are their business values? What are their client experience values? Those are going to tie back to ultimately the person that you choose, or the vendor that you choose. Having franchise experience is a gift because we do face some unique challenges, and each industry also has unique challenges within that focus. So we really look at scalability. We look at client experience. We look at training. And then we, again, are they going to help us anticipate the unforeseen changes? Are they going to discover things in our RFPs that we may have forgotten or that they have experience with? And we don't want to be rushed. And I know that kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, but those are really the core things that we look at. I can tell you the vendors that we do work with all have franchising experience, and they do work specifically with franchises. So there is a commonality there, and there's also, I haven't really thought about that, but apparently we gravitate toward those vendors. And they do help us kind of navigate some of those franchise industry conundrums sometimes. So is there a value in it? Absolutely.
I feel like if you are with somebody who has not been in franchising, they often do not have a good set of parent-child relationship setups. And so you end up being dark. So I feel pretty passionate about it because I've had to work in the space with not franchise-friendly software before, and it's really kind of a nightmare.
That's actually a great point, Amy. We have run into that when it comes to CRMs and different marketing functionality and not having a strong parent-child setup. And it made us kind of stop back and even slow down the process even further. So that's an excellent point. Thank you.
You know, Jessica, one thing that you said, you know, you talked about the culture of the relationship there. You know, one thing that I think is interesting is trying to decide, do you want a partner or do you want a vendor? Right. And again, there's opportunities for both, and not everything needs to be a partner relationship. There are areas where just having a vendor that just kind of clicks the box, it does everything that you want it to do. But again, it's just a vendor that you use. You know, there is value there. However, if you are looking for a partner, you know, one of the things that I really look at, and I think a lot of folks kind of miss out on, is it's not just my organization purchasing that product and investing in that product and that vendor. I expect them to invest in my organization as well. And for us, right, that might look like you need to sponsor our convention. You need to show up to our annual convention, sponsor it, get in front of our franchisees, and become a true partner and get to know the business. Are there other opportunities where, you know, as you're innovating and bringing in new functionality and technologies, that rather than just saying, hey, we can do this now, it's going to be an extra X amount of dollars, right? You're throwing that into the existing contract. You're letting us try it out, right? We're a partner in some, you know, preliminary trial functionality with the vendor as well. And then also, you know, at the end of the day, is, you know, the partner, is their contact somebody in accounts payable, or is their contact me in marketing, right? And that's where I kind of judge that partner vendor. If you're just a vendor, right, I may not need to talk to you. Just send us our invoice. It will pay it, right? You know the people in finance. You don't really know the marketing team. But if you're going to truly be a partner with us and invest in us, and we're going to invest in you, and we're going to grow and scale together, we need to have that relationship and that mutually beneficial relationship, because as you grow, we're going to grow, and vice versa.
Those are great points, and those are conversations that we do have with our vendor partners. And there's also a unique experience too, being in the payroll industry. There are times that our franchisees need additional support, and those vendor partners can show up and attend meetings or even have additional information sources for our franchisees, which then further completes that client experience, and also enhances the franchisee experience. So it is a double-edged sword that's very nice as well.
I'm a big believer in choosing only people who are wanting to be a partner with you. I can't stay up on every aspect of the industry on my own. And so I expect my vendors to be those subject matter experts, to be looking ahead and then be training me so that I know that there's a big change that's happening in this part of marketing technology or this part. And so I'm not really interested in a vendor that doesn't bring that to the table, because I can find somebody who does the exact same thing that does bring it. So things like this type of conference are really important to me because it helps me stay top of my game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Any final thoughts, comments around this question before we kind of jump into, our next topic from either of you?
Plan hard. Plan. Don't rush the process, and take the time to understand what you're asking for and how your system is going to adopt it from each stage, each level.
And one of the things that I always do as I'm implementing new technology is I start making visual to the franchisees who are the early adopters. So shout outs in our monthly meetings to the people who have adopted it really gets that competition going, and more people jump in fast so that it goes faster and better.
So wonderful. Danielle, if you want to move to the next slide, please. So we kind of talked about sort of the pitfalls and how to avoid those areas and make sure that the integration and the selection of the process is smooth and it meets your business goals. Now we kind of want to talk a little bit about how do we ensure that there is effective, successful integration, across not only all of your locations, but then internally in your internal shareholders as well. We kind of talked a little bit about it in that first question, and making sure that Amy mentioned making sure that you have the right stakeholders involved in it. One of the things that I like to implement in any sort of integration that is, somewhat at scale for the organization is making sure that we have a strong project manager, and that project manager knows that he or she, they know what the goal of this partner integration is, and B, that they know that they have the authority to ensure that we're staying on track, we're not kind of veering off. Less concerned about the timelines, because timelines come and go, and we're not going to rush that, but making sure that once we have the plan in place, that we follow it to ensure that we have effective communication across the board. I like that project manager to be someone outside of my team. It takes some of the bias away, in my opinion, and it allows them to kind of stay true to the larger business goal. But Jessica, we'll start with you on this one. What are some things that you look for, that you implement in your business to ensure that the integration is successful, it's fluid, it's executing across your locations and the franchisees and that support center is being able to maximize the value of that solution and solving those problems?
Absolutely. It really begins with expectations. What are we trying to achieve? What are the guidelines of how we're going to achieve that? And what does our roadmap look like? And after we have that mapped out, is that going to be a solution that's going to fit the bulk of the system, as well as the end goal, which is more sales, right? Sales and communication. Then we also establish a test or pilot group of franchisees, and we try to make it to where it's a small, medium, and maybe one of our legacy offices want to have also some new users, some again legacy. So we try to have like a well represented groups of the franchise, and that way the initial stages of implementation, we can gather valuable feedback and insights from a lot of different levels, from the more knowledgeable to the newer, and then we can really fine tune that integration process and address any challenges or concerns that may arise in real time. And we just take our time, we put together the group, and then we roll out the solution, and then we have meetings about it from a corporate standpoint and the test pilot. And then we go from there to hopefully ensure that it's going to be a more seamless and successful implementation.
Jessica, can you talk a little bit about that test group that you guys do? How do you manage that? Is it, do you guys proactively reach out to, the group that you want to be involved in it? Do you have kind of a set standard group of folks that you typically use? How do you manage that test pilot group?
So we take in the information and the feedback that we hear from our franchisees, and then we do research on a few different solutions. And then we say, we are looking to address these needs that you have brought to our attention. Who would like to be a part of this group? So we leave it open first. And then depending on the participation and what that looks like and making sure that we have everyone well represented, we will reach out to people individually and say, you've been one of the biggest, you've been one of the largest voices, and you are wanting to see these changes happen, but we noticed that you didn't want to be a part of the test pilot program. Can you tell us more about that? And sometimes they will kind of come around and want to be a part of it. And then sometimes they don't. So it also helps us to minimize having those voices that are like, well, you could do this better. You could do this. We need this. Because that can spiral too. And I'm sure that as franchisors, we have all seen that happen. So we try to do it in a we're not going to tell you no. So do you want to participate? This is what we found. This is going to address these goals. Now let's get together and see if it really is going to be the solution that we're looking for.
And do you typically fund all those pilots at the corporate level, or do your franchisees have a little skin in the game in helping fund some of those pilots, depending on the solution that you're trying to solve?
Both. Local search has been a huge challenge for us, again, because of the space that we're in. Mm-hmm. So when we have a pilot program to look at those, corporate will fund half of it, and then the franchisee will fund the other half, because it largely depends on them answering the phone, the client experience. And so we can do part of it. We can get the technology set in place, the vendor set in place, but then they have to take care of the other half of it. And when they're paying for that, they're a little bit more attentive to it.
So, Amy, what are some of your experiences in making sure that your product integrations execute smoothly?
Right. Once I'm confident that we're going to push it out to everyone, like I said, I usually do a test that the franchisees aren't so aware of yet. When I'm ready to push it out, it's a big blitz of the why, really help them understand how we're trying to make their life easier. And then that blitz follows up with monthly shout outs to the people who are doing a good job of the integration. So when I think that something's going to work well, I would usually choose from the franchises that are owned by the founders. There's a big network of those. They are individual, not just the headquarters, but the founders had purchased, so that I could try things in that space first and be able to get answers back. In really big things that we've put out, there will sometimes be a second pilot, but generally not. Once I've had it in some of the locations and I can see that it's working well, and I've got numbers that can show the advantage that it was, the adoption goes quite smoothly then. When that doesn't happen, when you've gone too quickly because your team isn't ready to be able to field questions, and then there's frustration, but have been really successful by being able to just be methodical, put it into a few places, make sure everyone on my marketing team is an expert in it. And if it touches operations, also that you've gotten all of your operation reps also trained up. And so everyone feels comfortable about it before it opens up to the big network.
Thank you. Wonderful. Jessica, one of the things that you mentioned that I think is really interesting, and I've seen in almost all of the integrations that I've done, is that the question around roadmap and making sure we stick to that roadmap. Previous role at Great Clips, when we rolled out a technology, our online check-in technology. Our first iteration and our first goal of phase one of that was purely operational. nothing to do with marketing or promotion. It was just purely operational. And for us to be able to collect data and make the salons run smoother and ultimately get customers in and out quicker. So I had a profitability goal with that. But with that integration, when we were integrating it, and it came from my marketing team. So I had to slap my own team's hand on it, where, they came in and said, "Hey, Kasey, we could do this technology with it, and we could use this to communicate with our customers and promote and send promotions and offers and discounts." And I had to take a step back and say, "Hey guys, we've got to understand, here's our initial phase 1 roadmap. It's purely operational. The marketing and promotional stuff and sales, that can come later, but we need to stick to our original roadmap and plan that we have. Otherwise, the integration across, at the time we had about 3,500 locations, is going to be a nightmare, and nobody's going to adopt it, and we're just going to have so many challenges." So talk a little bit, Jessica, about how do you kind of rein your team in when you have, you start communicating with folks in the organization and start sharing updates on, what you're doing. And you might have people that come in and say, "Hey, actually, I could use this for something," or, "Hey, have we thought about using it for this?" And how do you ensure that you stay to that original plan so the implementation doesn't go off the rails and, extend the deadline, extend costs for that?
I think a lot of teams tend to be a little bit more siloed in sales, business development, and operations. And our team, we meet together weekly to discuss goals. So we always have in front of us our 1, 3, and 10-year goals. And then we address our projects on a quarterly basis. And as we identify things during our weekly meetings as a team, especially when we are looking at implementing new software, we do take all category or all departments into consideration. We might have stages of implementation, or we might have something that doesn't fit, but we always look at the stages of any implementation and how it would impact each department and how that could impact our client experience and our franchisee experience. So even though we might start with a more sales and marketing focus, we will always consider how that's going to impact operations and how we could pull them in, or maybe it just needs to remain separate. But it's all in the roadmap. And it's not just looking at what we are doing today. It's, again, that scalability and where we need to be tomorrow. And that initial roadmap may have different timelines of implementing those stages of that technology, but we do look at it holistically as a franchise system, as a corporate team, and then make sure that that is also communicated down to our franchisees, because they are largely impacted by operations as well.
Absolutely. Amy, with your process of integrating and testing internally prior to rolling it out, how do you manage, internal expectations, and then, how do you, plan for potential questions, communication, integration efforts with franchisees to ensure that, again, the roadmap that you've built and the plan that you've built is executed externally for you?
Yeah. I asked my whole marketing team to be trying to poke holes in it. I want to find every problem that there can be. And so it really opens up communication about the things that they're frustrated with, getting my team to be really happy with the solution, and that we've built the solution in a way that is really happy for them, makes it a lot easier for them to want to sell it as it goes out into the other place. And there's always unintended consequences. No matter what you put into place, there's an unintended consequence that you're not aware is going to happen until you are in the middle of it. And so letting that be in the space with my team and me, I feel like it protects everybody's back. And we often are still in that stage with the company where we haven't said, yes, all 200 locations are going to come on. So they're very ready to jump in and fix solutions then, like they aren't necessarily after you've signed for the whole final agreement. So often we can just kind of close the loop with that. I feel like it's really important and really hard when you're the person in charge, you just have to be able to say no to some people. Like, I want to do it now. We really need this. Like, yes, I know. And no, the answer is no right now, because when you go too fast, then the team has too much on their plate, and then they start making mistakes and all sorts of things. Instead of, it isn't just the technology then that suffers. Everything suffers when you overwhelm the team. So it's my job to make sure that the team doesn't get overwhelmed, and that the things that we're putting into place to make their life easier, that we don't make their life harder for 6 months in the process of that.
Wonderful. You know, I think one of the interesting things about being in the franchise space is, you know, you do have independent small business owners that you're looking to support. You know, Jessica, in your experience, how have you managed, you know, we have, and again, luckily for us, we've kind of put some guardrails in place early on, and we don't have a lot of franchisees who are out there looking for their own solution to solve their own problem. But at the end of the day, right, each of our franchisee, you know, their biggest concern is their own business. So they're not often looking at the entire system from some of their decisions. How do you manage and communicate with the system around locations that, again, they may be out going and testing some things on their own? If they have ideas, solutions on things that they'd like to work with, how do you ensure that, you know, those funnel up to the corporate level, they're being vetted? Or do you kind of open up and allow your locations to do some small test cases before it's something that you're going to consider at the corporate level for the rest of the system?
It really depends on what that looks like. There are some instances to where we have allowed each individual offices to do some experimentation with different marketing chatbots and different things to go on their website, different technology that will capture different KPIs. And if they always come to us a problem. Again, we need to do this. We need to do more. You're not doing this for us. And I try not to be the no person. Okay, well, let's look at this. And I will ask questions. How is this feeding you leads? You know, how is this generating leads for you? Are they going to be qualified leads? How much money is it costing you? What is your return on an investment? What does that look like? And if they can answer all of those questions, then at a smaller level, we can roll it out for that particular location and say, okay, let's see how this works. Report back to me this information. And then if it's something that we can implement on a larger scale, at least we have this data. If they're not willing to go through and do the work and put forth the effort, and they want it just to be done at corporate, then we just simply say, well, let's consider this for a future project. And let's see how our initiatives change. And during our annual owners exchange, when we have our owners meeting, then we'll bring it back up and see if that is something that system-wide that any of the other owners may be interested in. And then we can kind of choose to move forward at that time, and as long as it fits with the corporate priorities at that time as well. And if it's not, then it just kind of goes to the wayside. So we always try to be that, yes, let's look at it, but does it meet this criteria? Is this going to meet your sales goal or your growth goals? And what does this look like from a time perspective for you? And is it going to be worth it?
Absolutely. You know, Amy, you know, one of the things that, you know, our business model calls for, our locations don't have a ton of employees. It's usually the owner and maybe, you know, 2 to 3, 4 other employees for a large portion of their initial tenure with us. So, you know, we get a lot of feedback around, you know, they're not marketing people, right? Everybody thinks they're marketing people, but our franchisees, you know, God bless them that they can even run a business, let alone think about marketing and technology. So that pushes a lot of stress back on my team, which again, my team is a small, nimble team of, you know, why don't you just do this for me? So, you know, when you're looking at solutions and the integration of that, how do you balance making sure that the franchisee does see the value, it is bringing value to them, but it's also not putting more stress on your team for, to do it for them, or to, the education and the training, and the upkeep with it. So how do you manage sort of those expectations with a product integration? You're on mute, Amy.
So, thank you. Sorry about that. When I was at Basecamp and had 2 brands, we would be able to, we had marketing specialists in place that it was a paid service. And so as people trusted our team more, we added more in, and that what they paid was what funded being able to have those marketing specialists. And so it was pretty easy to be able to do an implementation because you had somewhere between 60 and 80% of the franchisees on that service. And once other people the people who weren't on the service saw that it was being effective and efficient. So it was really getting my team up running on it well to be able to do it. But in all of the different franchising spaces that I've been in, I feel like it's really important to know who are the people who are very vocal and trusted in the franchise community, and to be working with them independently and ahead of the game, so that these can be the people who are the naysayers and also the ones that are the champions, usually both. It's usually a small group between 5 or 8 that are really make the tone of the temperament of how people are going to feel about things. And so I will often, even when we're down to 1 or 2 of the things, make some of them be a stakeholder with me, let them listen in on the sales call so they can give me what all their concerns are, the things that they want. Often, if you have those few franchisees that are really vocal, already feel like this was theirs, that they were part of the decision of it, then when things go wrong, they are not as vocal about the frustration of it because it was the thing that they had chosen. So I feel like it really helps it get implemented because you've got those voices of influence in your favor.
That's great. I think, marketing as a service is vastly underutilized in the franchise space. We do it here for a number of our franchisees where, again, they pay us a fee and we will do local SEO for them, we'll do paid media for them, we'll do email and social media, we'll clean their CRM, right? For us, it generates revenue for us, which is always nice, but B, it allows that integration and the adoption to move so much quicker because I have experts on my team, so that integration is going to be smoother. We have a lot more wins more quickly that we can then communicate to the system and say, hey, look, here's what we're doing for, X location, and here's the results that we're getting early on because we've adopted this technology. And it's, for us here at Citywide, it's become a whole new cost center for us, where our revenue generating center for us, and we're looking at different ways of, okay, so now how does AI come into play, and what can we do to go out and use this and as a fee for a service and bring that technology across our business. So even some of the simple things like email and social media, where our franchisees, you go focus on selling and servicing, we're the experts in marketing. You don't want to hire and train and mentor and coach somebody in marketing, so let us do it for you, pay us for it, and it's gonna make it so much easier for you and for the system as a whole. So I want to save some time here. We got about 10 12 minutes here left, and wanted to get into the breakout rooms, but any last comments, Amy or Jessica, on how we can ensure that integrations and adoptions go smoothly?
I would just say that if you feel like there is a need for some software, to just really start going through your company and saying, I'm kind of thinking I need this. What do you think about this? Find out what all of the points are that other people might want. So many of the technology platforms that they have now are so wide in what they can perform for you, which is great because you're bringing all of the numbers into one place. But it really means that you need to really understand from the whole entire team what the things they are hoping would be able to be in the space before you even make that RFP. It's really important that you've done your due diligence among your team and among your franchisees, so you understand all of the bells and whistles they wish that they had. You won't be able to get all of them, but it lets you know where to start and how other people value things. So you don't just get something that you like, that it needs to be something that works for everybody.
I agree. It really comes down to understanding what your end goal is, understanding the needs of your system, and then making sure that that system is going to be scalable, and then monitor and measure the performance of it.